What's up, football fans? Welcome back to another video, and this one is all about the Premier League positions and what it meant for European qualification. So it's been about a week since the Premier League campaign has ended, and it has been a phenomenal one where we've seen some absolute shocks and some dreadful performances from Manchester United and Tottenham ending down as low as they did, with United in 15th and Tottenham in 17th, but Tottenham did have something to salvage their season. The reason for this video is we have so many people who are still a bit confused about why certain spots were allocated the way that they were, and they are confused about everything that has happened. So what usually would happen in the season was first position right through to fourth would get Champions League football, fifth would go into the Europa League group stage, sixth would come in at some of the, I think, the last playoff round just before the actual group stage, and seventh would usually get the Conference League. However, this season things changed as England performed so well in the European competitions compared to other countries in terms of English teams getting as far as possible in the knockout stages of the competitions. That includes the Champions League, Conference League, and the Europa League. Of course, the Europa League and Conference League were switched in that order there, as Champions League is top, Europa League is second, and the Conference League is the third. And because of this coefficient, England had the best possible ranking. So instead of 4 teams getting in the Champions League, it's 5 teams in the Champions League. Sixth goes straight into the Europa League, and seventh goes straight into the Conference League. But because of what happened this season, Tottenham winning the Europa League got them into the Champions League as well. So that means 8 English clubs in European competitions. But let's have a look at the trophy winners. One thing to note before we have a look at those winners is that this was the first season that there were 5 different winners, meaning the domestic competitions as well as the European competitions were all won by different English clubs. And if there was an English club in the Champions League, which would have been Arsenal if they'd made it to the Champions League final, we could have had a 6th different winner. Starting off with the Premier League, it was won by Liverpool, who had done a phenomenal job this season, with Mo Salah being an absolute outstanding player. Their first place, of course, guarantees them Champions League football, and that's enough for them. So having a look at the league table, before we go to the rest of the trophy winners, we'll have a look at it this way. Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City, Chelsea, and Newcastle, as the first 5, all qualify for the Champions League. Aston Villa in 6th place qualifies for the Europa League, and in 7th place Nottingham Forest qualifies for the Conference League. Another thing to note here is that in this top 7, none of these teams have won the FA Cup, meaning that a team lower down won the FA Cup, and that took the Europa League spot that will go alongside Aston Villa, and Nottingham Forest then fall into the Conference League. And one more interesting fact, with Man City ending in 3rd, they also lost in the FA Cup final, and this is the first season that Pep Guardiola has won absolutely nothing as the manager of the club. And here is the Carabao Cup winners, Newcastle United. So usually the Carabao Cup winner would go into the Europa Conference League. But because Newcastle United finished in the top 5, they go into the Champions League, and this Europa Conference League spot falls to the team who were next in line for a spot, and that was Nottingham Forest in 7th. We then look at the winners of the FA Cup, who are Crystal Palace. They finished just outside 7th, 8th. They wouldn't even have made European competition, but because of winning the FA Cup, it was also their first major trophy. They then find themselves in a Europa League spot, which is going to be exciting. They will be alongside Aston Villa, and it could be phenomenal to see the progress that they could make in there. Now heading to the European competitions, I'm starting at the bottom with the Europa Conference League for a reason, and that is because Chelsea finished inside the top 5, so they would still get Champions League. And usually what would happen is if Chelsea had finished out of the top 7 completely, winning the Europa Conference League would then get them automatic entry into the Europa League. But Chelsea, of course, finishing top 5, will play in the Champions League. Then look at Tottenham Hotspur, who finished in 17th place, 1 spot above the relegation zone. And this is a phenomenal feat because winning the Europa League, of course, gets you direct entry into the Champions League. The final of the Europa League was, of course, contested between Tottenham Hotspur, who ended in 7th, and Manchester United, who ended in 15th. So both of these sides had relatively horrible seasons in the league, but the Europa League is what made them have such a close chance of a great season. And Spurs won it in the end, getting into the Champions League, and they are going to be rewarded with great money that will help them perhaps rebuild the team wherever they need that, which United could also have used, but this is going to be really special for Spurs, who could find themselves back in the top half of the table next season. So yes, that is the gist of everything, and that is why certain clubs finished in European spots and certain clubs who had ended up a bit higher did not make it in. And you also now understand why Tottenham Hotspur, who ended so low, get themselves that special position in the Champions League. And is it deserved? Some might say it's not, but I think it's a consolation that many clubs would absolutely love to end their season with, knowing that they're going into the Champions League despite a terrible Premier League season. I hope that this video was of help to you. If you did enjoy it, please feel free to like, subscribe. You can comment as well. You can share it with your friends. And the reason for the subscribe is we are on our way to 500 subscribers, and we are really hoping to push all the way there. I would love it if we could hit 500 subscribers by the end of the year, but also the support that I have received has been phenomenal, and I thank you so much if you have been one of those people supporting me. And if not, that's fine too, but I do thank you either way for tuning into this video. As always, thank you so much and have an absolutely amazing one.